Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOTHSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome to Sports on Tap. We're live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. It's our Ohio high school football coverage. Week 3 game recaps for the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Southwestern Conference, and the Suburban League. I'm Rob Trump. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, and ways you can find us is sportsontap.podcast.com. We're on neosportsinsiders.com, at SOT Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And all of these shows are archived on our YouTube page as well. So, guys, week 3 in the books. And I know in the Southwestern Conference, a little bit of an upset, but a lot of great football overall played. You know, some blowouts and some really good games.
Yeah, especially our game of the week, which we'll talk about later on in the show.
Holy cow, man. What a game that
Josh
was.
and I, for the second year in a row, had a really good game at Highland. And
yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. It was a great game to witness live. Definitely, it was intense to say the least.
Very intense.
A lot of people were following because, I mean, I don't know how many retweets and favorites and likes that you guys got on that game-winning touchdown that Josh was in the end zone just sitting, watching and enjoying, but that got a ton. I mean, it got over 1,000 views, I think. 2,000.
Yeah, we had a lot of, and we appreciate all the likes and yes, retweets that we got on Twitter. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. We couldn't keep up with it during the game because there was such high-paced action during that game. But once again, we appreciate you following. If you're not following us on Twitter, at SOT Podcast, and with you can get in-game live updates during our game of the week.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, and we do a pretty good job when we're there with pictures, video. Sean does a nice write-up, and we're going to have another good day in Week 3 here going over our games, and we'll tell you later on in the show where we're going to go for our game of the week this week. Any other thoughts before we get to the Greater Cleveland Conference with Josh over there? He's itching at the bit over here.
Yeah, not so good for the Suburban League National Division against the folks in the American Division this week.
It was a rough week for you.
Admittedly, there was absolutely no shot of happening.
Yeah, that's true.
However, the game of the week, as we alluded to earlier, was a very high-powered contest between the Suburban Leagues, the better teams in the Suburban League American and National Division. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
All right, well, without further ado, let's go over to Josh Jeffy, who will give you the Week 3 game recaps of the Greater Cleveland Conference.
So this week in the GCC, not much going on in terms of really close games. If you're just looking at the scores on the scoreboard, there wasn't a lot of close games this week. In fact, I believe most games finished with at least a touchdown in between both teams. So we're going to start first. Elyria versus Lorraine. This game was all Lorraine in this one as they went on to a 40-7 victory over Elyria. Unfortunately for Elyria, they are still looking for victory number 1 on the year. In this game, Elyria only managed 150 total yards of offense. Their defense gave up 473 yards of total offense to Lorraine. It was 26-0 at half, and it was pretty much all Lorraine, like I mentioned before. The lone bright spot for the Pioneers was Davian Drummer. He had 12 rushing attempts for 78 yards, and he did score the lone touchdown for the Pioneers, as once again they lose in this contest 40-7. Next week, Elyria will travel to Solon as we begin Greater Cleveland Conference play for 2018. Next game on the docket, Brunswick fails to find their first victory of the season with a 27-14 loss to Valley Forge. Brunswick drops to 0-3 on the season. This is their first 0-3 start since 1974. Sophomore Jacob Charette, his first Thank you for the correction. His first varsity start, and in his first pass, it went for a pick six, kind of like what Sam Darnold did tonight in his first NFL pass, intercepted for a pick six. However, the next drive, though, he put together, along with the rest of the Blue Devil offense, a nice 56-yard drive, all running plays, but it ended up with their first offensive touchdown of the year. Jacob Charette scored on a 16-yard run. He once again scored later on in the game, 11-yard run. In this game, he totaled 22 rushing attempts for 123 yards. He did have a reception in this one for 29 yards, but passing left a little more to be desired. 2 for 10, passing for only 18 yards. They did, however, the defense played solid, but they didn't play solid enough against the run game, giving up 199 yards and 2 touchdowns to. And this is a tough name to say. Ed, do you know how to say the name of their running? Matthias Chmielewski. I'm sorry if Chmielewski. Yeah, I'm sorry if we butchered that. But you had a hell of a game, my friend. 199 yards, 2 touchdowns for the running back. Next up for Brunswick, as they venture on into Greater Cleveland Conference play, they will travel to Shaker Heights, and that game will be played on Saturday. Ed, any thoughts?
I mean, we ran into a very maybe an underrated and a very good Valley Forge team. Coach Marcello DeAngelis, another one of my former college teammates, along with Coach Gibbons from Medina Highland, had a really good game plan. I mean, the wing T is tough to stop. It's disciplined football, and you have to know what you're doing. The running back specifically for Valley Forge is a transfer back to his home school from Cleveland Benedictine, from what I understand. And he as you saw, he's a hell of a player. He can out hit you, and then he can outrun you at the same time, and that's a tough combination to stop. Right. From the offensive standpoint, I mean, you summed it up pretty well. I mean, Sherrod, sophomore quarterback in his first start. He's going to go through some of these games. It's not all. He's not going to, as much as we all want him to. It may not go as perfectly as planned, but there'll be plenty of room for him to grow over the next couple of games. And I obviously I say this every week, and I'm behind it. We'll find the best way to put our offense in position to get some points on the board, and the defense will do everything they can to stop the other team. It's going to be a bit of a grind going into the Greater Cleveland Conference season. We all know that. I'm not saying anything that we don't already know, but we're going to give it our best shot, and as long as we stick together, we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Ed, for that. Speaking of Shaker Heights, they actually suffered their first defeat of the season, a 16-6 loss to Austintown Fitch. Shaker Heights drops to 2-1. In this game, discipline was a definite problem for Shaker Heights as they had 260 penalty yards in this game.
Wow.
Their coach no coach likes excuses, but they did only have one practice during the week due to excessive heat. So that is tough to come into a game against a tough opponent like Austintown Fitch with only one practice under your belt. They did manage, though. They played solid defense. They did manage to get one touchdown, and that was from Dakota Cochran, 77-yard TD reception. Running back for Shaker Heights, Rasheen Ali, 173 yards rushing. So they were able to move the ball. It was a close, contested game, but just not enough for Shaker Heights to overcome Austintown as, once again, they lose 16-6 as they move on, as we mentioned before, as they will host Brunswick this coming Saturday. The Battle of Medina County actually went Wadsworth's way in this one as they defeated Medina 28-7. Medina drops to 2-1. This was a highly contested battle before the game started. Wadsworth went into this one really wanting to dominate this game. They had a quote in the Medina County Gazette that they weren't calling it Medina County, they were calling it Wadsworth County. So they took this one seriously. Medina offense was not clicking, though, on all cylinders. They only managed 84 yards of total offense, 104 yards passing, minus 22 on the rushing end. The only TD came from Ryan Fisher. He had a 22-yard touchdown pass and catch to Chris Kelly, and the Bees fumbled 6 times in this one. They were able to muster some drives, but those costly turnovers really helped them, and Wadsworth took advantage of that as Wadsworth, again, defeated the Medina Bees 28-7. Next up for Medina, they will travel to Euclid as, once again, they begin conference play. The Mentor Cardinals continued their winning ways as they defeated the Glenville Tarblooders 42-18. Mentor improves to 3-0. Glenville drops to 8-2. 1-2. I'm sorry. Mentor led this one 35-6 at the half. Brian Trobel, running back, 121 yards, 3 TDs. 2 of those came in the first half. Quarterback Ian Kipp also added 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown to Charlie Gallo for this one. And like I said, it was all Mentor in this one. They improved to 3-0. They got a big game coming up next week as they will host the undefeated Strongsville Mustangs.
Whoa, that will be a test.
St. Ignatius, Mentor's last opponent last week, St. Ignatius, actually played Euclid, another GCC member, and they got a victory, their first victory of the season, as they defeated Euclid 21-6. Euclid drops to 2-1 on the year. Euclid had a really tough time on offense. They got their first score with 50 seconds left in the game. Their quarterbacks were sacked 4 times. I said quarterbacks because Dion Valentine was knocked out of this game early in the fourth quarter. So the offensive end for the Euclid Panthers struggled. Not only did quarterbacks were sacked 4 times, they were also 3 of 16 on third down conversions. If you can't convert on third down, you're not going to be very successful when it comes to the game. It should be noted that head coach Jeff Rotsky was suspended for this game. He had an altercation with a Lorraine assistant coach last week, so he was suspended for this game. Maybe that took some wind out of the Euclid sails. Who knows? The only touchdown for Euclid was a Drayvon Lindsay 16-yard TD reception, and once again, that came with less than a minute left in the game. So Euclid is looking to put this one behind them as they begin conference play. They will host Medina. Strongsville Mustangs had a nice, easy game against Canton Central Catholic. They went on to a 26-14 victory in this one. Pretty standard game, pretty hard-nosed, typical game for the Mustangs. As we mention every week when we talk about them, Taylor Griffin had 2 rushing TDs in this one. Joey Gillette also had a rushing TD and 1 passing TD. Defense held strong in this game as Strongsville went on to a 26-14 victory. They improved to 3-0, as we mentioned earlier. 3-0 versus 3-0 this coming Friday. Mentor versus Strongsville. It's going to be a big one out there in Mentor. Final game on the GCC docket, it was actually Solon with a 28-14 victory over Stowe Monroe Falls. Now, Stowe gave Solon a run for their money in the first quarter. They led early 14-0 after the first quarter. Those are the first points the Solon defense has given up all year. But then after that, Patrick McQuaid led the comments on 3 straight scoring drives, and it ended being a 21-14 lead at the half. McQuaid added another TD towards the end of the game for the final score of the game, and that one went to Bubonics. On that one, McQuaid, 3 touchdown passes to 3 different receivers, and he led the Solon Comets to a 28-14 victory. They improved to 3-0 on the season, and they will travel to Elyria next week as they begin conference play. Speaking of Patrick McQuaid, he is my player of the week for the GCC. Got off to a rocky start. The defense gave up 14 quick points. No panic in his blood. Led the Comets on 3 straight scoring drives, throwing 3 TD passes to 3 different receivers, as he's going to be my GCC player of the week. So pretty much you have the top teams, Solon, Mentor, and you could throw Strongsville in there, continuing their winning ways. You had a couple teams, Euclid, Mentor, and Shaker Heights with their first losses of the season, and the struggles continue for Elyria and Brunswick. Hopefully they can get their wits about them as we finally move into conference play here in week 4.
Well, yeah, Solon went on a 28-0 run there with Stowe.
Yep.
And, Euclid, I think you're seeing – I mean, their defense gave up 21 points to Ignatius, which isn't bad. But, only scoring those 6, I mean, they could have very well been in the game if a few things change on the offensive side of the ball.
I think the biggest point of this was Coach Roski wasn't on the sidelines because he is the heart. I mean, as much as you want your players to be the heart and soul of that program, Jeff Roski is the heart and soul of that program. He instills so much confidence into any program that he's been a part of, which he's been with Cleveland Heights, he's been with Maple Heights back in the day, and now with Euclid. I did hear his interview after they defeated Lorraine Saturday morning when I was on my way out to the JV game against Cleveland Heights, and just the passion that he has for his players and what he wants his players to strive and achieve for. I think, not to take anything away from St. Ignatius, they have one of the best coaches in high school football history in Chuck Kyle. But I think the matchup lost a little bit of its luster without having Coach Roski on Euclid's sideline helping them out. Like, I think you'd be remiss not to say that didn't have something to do with it.
Yeah, and Roski, his style can come off as a little too intense at times. Yelling at the players, whatever, yelling at other coaches. But high school kids do feed off that, and that's the kind of guy you want to go into battle with. And I agree with you, Ed. He was a big part of why maybe they struggled in this game, for sure.
Well, and Menor obviously continuing to dominate this year. I mean, they just have so many weapons all around. Strongsville, give them credit, 3-0, and some nice wins on the season, now getting into GCC play. I think it's going to be pretty telling how Strongsville and that Menor game are going to go in this coming up week, to see how Strongsville is going to compete with a very good Menor team.
I agree. I mean, you look at that matchup, and that's a measuring stick for Strongsville's program right now. If they go in there and they get completely blown out of the stadium, then obviously they're gonna, that's gonna be affected. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Strongsville's playing with such a confidence, such an air of confidence, both on offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball, that you're gonna see a very competitive game. Now, the one thing that Rob mentioned is the weapons that Menor has, and those are tough to contain on the defensive side of the ball. You can list them, and at every position they probably have a little bit of an edge there. But again, it's hard to fight a team that has confidence. It's playing with the confidence that Strongsville's playing with right now. But again, you could see that, and I think that's to open conference play with 2 3-0 teams battling it out. That's going to set the table for pretty much the GCC going forward. I think that's going to be, whoever wins that game is going to be in the driver's seat, so to speak. Yeah, Solon's out there, but if you can knock off Menor and you're Strongsville, then you're saying, okay, let's run the gamut here and see what we can do. Now Menor's like, okay, let's take care of business. We got to take care of Strongsville. It's very businesslike with Menor. It seems as they go week to week, whereas Strongsville is riding that wave of confidence. But we'll have to let them roll the ball out there and play.
Yeah, Strongsville's going to come up to they're going to have their toughest stretch of the season coming up in the next 3 games with Menor, Solon, and Euclid, 2 of which are are away. They will host Solon in week 5, but they will have to travel to Jerome T. Osborne Stadium. I refuse to call it the JTO because I think it's pretentious, like most of those folks out there are.
Wow.
I'm just bitter because they always beat us. And then they're going to travel to Euclid in that beautiful new stadium out in right next to Tom DiBiasio Stadium, where Euclid has established a new stadium, and obviously Coach Roski in his program out there. So I mean, for Strongsville, this will be their biggest stretch. If they do lose to Menor, and if they do get blown out, or probably more importantly, if they win, how do they respond going forward?
Yeah.
The Menor game obviously cannot be their. It can't be their state championship.
Right.
It can't be their conference championship.
Absolutely.
Because you have 2 more landmines right in front of you if you're Strongsville, and then you have potential trap games with Medina, Shaker, Elyria, and then obviously the Brunswick game didn't go so well for the Blue Devils last year. But it's always you throw the records out of the you have to throw the record book out when Brunswick and Strongsville play. So the most important game obviously is Menor right now for Strongsville because it's the next one on their schedule. But we'll see how they respond, win or lose, going forward for the rest of the season. I don't think Coach Sereno's going to let them get too high or too low after whatever happens in this game.
True. Very true.
Any last thoughts, Josh, on the GCC before we move into SWC?
Anyone from Mentor, you can write me directly.
Yeah, I was going to say
views-
the thoughts
the views
the
of-
thoughts of Ed Dick are not totally representative of that of Sports on Tap. So
I just was saying that the JTO sounds like MTO from Sheets, and it made me hungry because I want a made-to-order sandwich right now.
Somebody
I mean,
did,
if you want to
didn't
listen,
eat dinner.
if you want to listen to top,
Saying.
if you want to listen to that, I mean, there's multiple other outlets for that for the whole JTO thing. I will call Jerome T. Osborne Stadium out of respect for Jerome T. Osborne.
There you go.
very good. No, I got nothing more.
All right. All right.
Let's move on.
All right. Our Week 3 game recap in the Southwestern Conference. First, we're going to start off in North Ridgeville, where the Amherst Comets, they traveled to North Ridgeville, and this was an important early game for both teams into the season where, once again, Kenny Scagliazzo showed what he does best. He found the end zone for the first time from 3 yards out with 5:01 left in the half to put Amherst in front 14-0. North Ridgeville, they did get on the board just before half thanks to a 29-yard Aiden Vanover field goal, but North Ridgeville trailed 21-3 at half. The Rangers' lone touchdown, it came in the third quarter when junior Cale Bright broke free for an 8-yard touchdown run. The Rangers had several drives, though, in the Comets' territory in this game, but it stalled and led to no points. Amherst wins big 38-9 over the Rangers, which was a little surprising to me. Kennedy Scagliazzo led the Comets with 31 rushes for 285 yards and 4 touchdowns. He now has rushed for 649 yards on the season as Amherst improves to 3-0, and they will host Midview next as North Ridgeville falls to 1-2, and they will travel to Berea Mid-Park. So congratulations to Kenny Scagliazzo as he continues his tear on the ground.
Yeah, we mentioned that last week that, it was a huge emotional win for North Ridgeville beating Midview for the first time in 8 years. You wonder if perhaps it was a little bit of a hangover effect. That
they're still celebrating that
well,
win.
not really, just such an emotional win. But also we also talked about that going forward. We said, look, you got Midview to open up conference play, and then right after that, you got that beast that is Amherst and Kennedy Scagliazzo, and the guy is tough to stop. And I mean,
and we've seen him in a game. I mean, he's not overwhelming. He's not really tall and huge. And he's going to get the ball.
He's efficient.
Just their most important player, and he's going to get the ball. It's
Well,
just how do you stop him?
And from what I'm understanding, it's the first time in a couple of years since he's played that he's just playing a true running back. For a long time, he was taking snaps, and he was having to basically run the ball from a quarterback position. Now he's simply just getting ahead of steam and going forward, and that's a very difficult thing for defenses to really stop when you have a guy who's that effective running the ball. And I think, while North Ridgeville had a great game and beat Midview, and first time in 8 years, it was a tough way to go because they had to turn around and get ready for a running back of that caliber, and unfortunately they came out on the wrong end of it. So they got to rebound, and hats off to Kennedy Scagliazzo because that kid just continues to play well every time they give him the ball. I mean, he there's certain kids that we saw, and Josh, you can attest this. Whenever they get the ball, they have the opportunity to really make something special happen. We saw it in our game of the week, which we'll get to, but we're also seeing it with a guy like Scagliazzo. We're also seeing it in the GCC. It's all over the place that when those players can really have an impact on a game, and he's one of those players.
All right. Let's move on to Midview, who traveled to North Olmsted. And Midview, they were trying to win its first game of the season and avoid a 0-3 start, the first time in decades for them that they've been, trying to not go 0-3. And both teams in this game made mistakes early on, and it played to a 13-13 tie at half. But it took less than 5 minutes into the second half for Midview to be down in the game 27-13, and they faced a little bit of an uphill battle here trying to get back into it. But North Olmsted quarterback Liam Fay, he hit Owen June as he went 62 yards for a touchdown in 22 seconds into the third quarter. Then Darren Anders, the Bowling Green recruit, scored from 7 yards out, and it was a 14-0 lead. Just when you think the lead was safe for North Olmsted, the Middies got right back into it. It was Andrew Felion of Midview who picked off North Olmsted quarterback Liam Fay, and 6 plays later the Eagles found the end zone on a double reverse by Isaiah Johnson, or actually the middies. Isaiah Johnson ran 55 yards. It was 27-20. North Olmsted still led in the game. After trading punts, though, another defensive stop by the middies. Midview would score from 35 yards out on an Edwin Relat touchdown from Andrew Gooch. The game went into overtime in this game. In Midview, they tried to score first on a 40-yard field goal by Shane Cairns, but it fell short and was no good. Then North Olmsted, they would score on their first possession from Darren Anders on a 20-yard run. The Eagles win their first SWC game, and they win in overtime 33-27 as the Middies drop to 0-3, or 0-3 rather, as they travel to Amherst. And North Olmsted, they improved to 2-1 and will travel to Avon next. And Midview's quarterback, Andrew Gooch, he had 25 of 48 for 267 and 3 touchdowns. For North Olmsted, it was Darren Anders. He had 26 rushes for 164 yards and 3 touchdowns on that game. Next one was a big one as Avon traveled to Avon Lake. And Avon, they've won 28 straight regular season games in this game. The rivalry between these two teams has been dominated, though, by the Eagles. Would that change, or would it have changed? We'll see here in a minute. As Avon Lake, they grabbed the lead 3 times in the game on 3-0 on a Harry Herbert 33-yard field goal on the Shoreman's first drive. Then it was 10-7 when Jack McCulloch hit Nathan Sidlowski for an 18-yard touchdown in the first quarter, and that was the final score in the first half. Then Avon Lake, they had a double-digit lead until the fourth quarter. Then early in the fourth, Avon quarterback Ryan Malloy cut into the lead with a touchdown, but the Shoremen then answered right away with quarterback Jack McCulloch. He hit Luke Fetters down the middle on a 45-yard score. It was 24-14 Shoremen. But Avon, they weren't done yet and wouldn't give up in the game as Avon's running back, Mark Steinmetz, he ran for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns, and most of it coming in the second half. He rushed 9 times on the ensuing drive and had a lot of big-time yardage before finding the end zone from 1 yard out. The score pulled Avon to within 3 with 3:35 left, and a muff punt, though, by the Eagles would recover and score 4 plays later. As Ryan Malloy to tight end Joey Allen. Avon had the lead, actually, in this game at 28-24. Then on the last winning drive for the Shoremen, it was McCulloch who would connect with Sidlowski 4 times to set up a fourth down conversion. And Riggs had a pair of double-digit yardage runs that put Avon Lake in the red zone before McCulloch finally capped a 14-play drive that led to a 1-yard touchdown run. Avon Lake, they stunned the Avon Eagles 31-28, and they get that huge SWC win, and it drops Avon to 2-1 on the season with a 1-1 record in the SWC. They'll host North Olmsted coming up, and for the Shoremen, they improved to 3-0 now on the year with big wins against North Olmsted and Avon in back-to-back weeks. They're 3-0, and they travel to Westlake next. And Jack McCulloch, the quarterback for Avon Lake, had 230 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Connor Riggs, again, another game where he had 30 rushes, 159 yards on the night. He did not score in this game, though. He did a lot to set up some touchdowns. And Ryan Malloy for Avon had 80 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but it was Mark Steinmetz, 18 rushes, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the day. We'll move right to Lakewood and Berea Mid-Park, where Berea Mid-Park, they scored 50-plus points for the second straight game. They led at halftime against Lakewood 41-0. As Trevor Bazinski, he continued to lead the Titans in scoring. He led the Titans 5 out of the 6 touchdowns. He led the Titans to there. Excuse my English on that one.
Wow.
I know. Unbelievable.
It's more like you're French.
Sorry. But he passed for 189 yards, 3 touchdowns, passing 1 rushing. 6 Titans scored, including Dwayne Holland on a 100-yard interception return. The Titans win big in this one, 50-12 over the Lakewood Rangers. Berea Mid-Park, they improved to 2-1 and host another Rangers team in the North Ridgeville Rangers coming up as Lakewood falls to 0-3, and they will host another tough foe in Olmsted Falls. So we'll see if Lakewood can find their winning ways against the Bulldogs, who continued their dominance in this week's game against Westlake. They hosted Westlake here, and they're looking to bounce back from their loss at Avon, and they took out their frustrations on the Westlake Demons. Not many mistakes from the Bulldogs, who led 34-0 at halftime in this game. But the Bulldogs quarterback, Teddy Grunzinski, he threw for 230 yards while completing all 4 of his passing attempts. And the reason he had so many passing yards is because he had 3 passes that were touchdowns covering 77, 65, and 56 yards. And he also added a 52-yard rushing touchdown. In all, the Bulldogs had 518 yards of total offense, and they win big in this one, 41-7.
That's impressive.
Yeah, surprising he didn't pass very much in this
The
game.
dude had 4 passes and had over 200 yards.
I know.
That's unreal.
That's what I was.
Your yards per attempt is 50 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you know what? It's
for
weird.
For those math majors.
It's unbelievable because when we covered the Brecksville game, he had more than 6 attempts passing the ball. He actually passed a lot.
Again, I would point out that Brecksville was almost daring him to pass on certain plays. They committed a lot of guys into the box and forced him to pass the ball, and he was able to take advantage of it, and he did. In this case, obviously any coach is going to say, if I can run the ball with any effectiveness and only have to pass every now and then, and it's effective. That's the thing here. It's effective. He's throwing 4 passes, and he's averaging 200 yards. Those are effective pass plays, and I guarantee you they came more than likely, I would say almost all of them came off of a play-action read. And that means that they were committing to the run, they were having success with the run, and the defense was keying on the run, and they were able to take advantage. And they were able to make them pay for it when they did take advantage of it.
Yeah, he had very solid night, but winning 41-7 over Westlake. The Demons, they were led by quarterback Jacob May, who had 16 carries for 75 yards and threw another 187 and a touchdown. The Bulldogs improved to 2-1, and they will travel to Lakewood this coming Friday as the Demons fall to 0-3 and will host the unbeaten Avon Lake Shoremen. So it doesn't get easier for the Demons. And the player of the week in the SWC has to go to Kennedy Scagliazzo, leading the Counts with 31 rushes for 285 yards and 4 touchdowns, and now having 649 yards on the season through 3 games. He's putting workhorse-type numbers out, and he's really carrying the Comets right now offensively.
That's unbelievable. Almost 650 yards in 3 games. He's doing a heck of a job for sure.
And, Connor Riggs for Avon Lake, too. What a job he's doing with 159 yards on 30 carries. So in the SWC, you see some really impressive running backs running the football. Mark Steinmetz had 18 rushes, and he's been consistently helping that Avon team. Avon dropped Avon Lake, which I think everybody was shocked, but Avon Lake's a really good football team, and it's a long season, so anything can really happen. Avon has been the dominant team. I think that's why everybody's a little bit surprised. But, let's see how they bounce back after a loss like that.
I don't doubt Avon will be able to bounce back after this. And I also don't doubt that Avon Lake will settle on this either. Avon Lake hasn't had the Southwestern Conference title since 2012 when they shared it with Brecksville Broadview Heights. Now, a lot of things have changed since 2012.
Yeah.
Brecksville Broadview Heights is now in the Suburban League. Avon was in the West Shore Conference at the time. So this is big from the Avon Lake side of things. The teams that have come into that conference, Avon and Midview, I think we talked about this last week a little bit. They've really run roughshod over the conference since they joined.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit now of the old guard, that the old traditional Southwestern Conference teams like Avon Lake, who is traditionally a power, saying, hey, enough of this. We need to take back what's been ours for so long. And a victory over a rival like Avon will go a far way to accomplishing that.
Yeah, and one thing that Avon Lake's going to benefit, that's one of them, yep, thank you, Josh, is going to benefit from is that Avon's a great team, and that win is going to just give them computer points all day, all season, because Avon's going to continue winning. Now, that's not to say Avon Lake's going to continue losing or lose, but they don't necessarily their margin of error, so to speak, is a little bit bigger now because again you beat a quality opponent at the right time to allow those points to accumulate throughout the rest of the season. I think what you're seeing with Avon Lake is, and I agree with you, Ed, that for the last few years, Avon and Midview have kind of rode roughshod over this conference a little bit, being the quality teams that it added. I think Avon Lake is finally tired of being, not second fiddle, but not being having to go through those and beating Avon. Now you have to look at Midview. Now you have to look at Olmsted Falls. That those teams, I think Avon Lake has a lot more confidence going into those games now with taking care of Avon early in the season.
Well, in their schedule for Avon Lake is pretty favorable in the next 3 weeks. Westlake and Lakewood are their next two opponents. They haven't won yet this season. And then they go and play a 1-2 North Ridgeville game on the 28th of September before they have to, a tough game against your player of the week and Amherst. So, this is a time for them to really start to play, well and start to really hone in on their offense and their defense and go into this game and go into these games and not take anything lightly for sure, but let them go in and win these games and build on a great victory they had against Avon.
Yeah, I want to correct one score. Actually, it was Olmsted Falls, and thanks, Ed, for finding that. It was 48-14, actually. Yeah, some of the scores that I looked at, Cleveland.com, and there are a few others, but not all of them had it finalized. So it actually is 48-14. So thanks for finding that out. I think it was Cleveland.com and some other places that.
That's all right. We got it. We'll get it.
We'll get it right. So thanks, Ed, for finding that out. But right now we'll step away. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to go over the Suburban League National and American Division. Ed and Sean will be ready for that. We'll also go over our Sports on Tap Game of the Week. Westlake Interior Painting, thanks for sponsoring that game between Highland and North Royalton. And we'll tell you our upcoming Game of the Week this Friday. All coming up on Sports on Tap. Come right back. We'll be here shortly.
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. Contact us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
And welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our high school football coverage. Week 3 game recaps here on Mixer. We're live, and it archives also on YouTube. We're at SOT Podcast on Twitter. Go to sportsontappodcast.com if you want the standings, you want pictures, videos, stories from some of the conferences we cover.
Word.
And without further ado, I'm going to go to my compadre.
Whoa.
No. Whoa, I didn't know I'd ruffle
That
a little
is,
feathers
what
there.
is that, copyright or trademark?
My
But it's
compadre.
both. You know what? It's both.
My-
You know, the one thing I was thinking.
No, that's trademarked
My-
for sure.
Bro.
I don't think there's a TM on there, so you might want to go to the patent office and get that done.
Dude, that was good. I got to do that every show because that was perfect.
No, it really wasn't.
Oh.
I kind of liked it. I
crossed,
enjoyed it.
You crossed the line, Troutman.
I know, and I'm sprinting across it right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Suburban National Division, where Ed Dick is going to give us the Game 3 recap for some of these teams here.
All right, so for Week 3, we will start with the defending Suburban League National Division champion, the Wadsworth Grizzlies. They hosted similarly undefeated Medina in Week 3 of the Week 3 battle of Medina County rivals. Josh covered it pretty well in the Greater Cleveland Conference recap. This was a quite chippy affair before the game. Both teams looking for Medina County supremacy as far as the big schools are concerned. And the Grizzlies hosted the Bees and were not very hospitable to the visitors. Wadsworth Junior quarterback Trey Schaefer scored from 1 yard out and tossed a 17-yard touchdown pass to last week's Player of the Week, Carson Risher, for a 14-0 Grizzlies lead. Medina did counter with a score of their own to cut the lead in half. However, Schaefer and Risher connected again for 15 yards out, and Wadsworth went into the half with a 21-7 lead. The Grizzlies, as Josh pointed out, but I think this is worth bearing repeating, held Medina to just 84 yards. That does include a negative 22 yards on the rushing side of things, a 28-7 rout over the Medina Bees. Wadsworth quarterback Trey Schaefer completed 20 of 29 passes for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, and he also rushed for another. The Carson Risher, last week's Player of the Week, again caught 6 passes for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. Medina drops their first game of the season. They will start their Greater Cleveland Conference play, traveling to 2-1 Euclid. Wadsworth pushes their record to 3-0. They will begin their National Division play hosting Macedonia, Nordonia. Speaking of Nordonia, Macedonia, undefeated 2-0 in the year. They hosted 1-1 Mayfield to wrap up their non-conference schedule. The Knights continue to pile up the points and the yards, led by senior quarterback Robbie Levac. Levac accounted for over 300 yards of offense. The Knights led wire-to-wire over the Wildcats en route to a 35-26 victory. Levac rushed for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also passed for another 191 yards as he continues his early season assault. Senior running back Niles Beverly also eclipsed 100 yards, rushing 14 times for 115 yards. And Week 1 Player of the Week Julius Jones caught 8 passes for 99 yards. Mayfield drops to 1-2. They will host 2-1 Lyndhurst Brush. Nordonia has already exceeded last year's win total. They are now 3-0. They will travel to Art Wright Stadium for an early battle of the undefeateds with the defending champion and 3-0 Wadsworth Grizzlies. Josh covered this game earlier as well. Still Monroe Falls, 0-2 going into their contest with undefeated and host Solon. The Bulldogs were not intimidated by the dominant Comets defense to start the game. Quarterback Josh Andrazi hit Bryce Shepard for a 6-yard touchdown, and then Andrazi called his own number from a yard out to give the Bulldogs an early 14-0 lead over the Comets. However, that was the extent of the Stowe offense. Solon reels off 28 unanswered points. They held the Bulldogs off the scoreboard for a 28-14 victory. Solon is 3-0. They will start their Greater Cleveland Conference season against visiting and winless Elyria. Stowe Monroe Falls, quite shockingly, is 0-3. They will look for their first win when they travel to North Royalton. Another surprising winless team in Hudson, they hosted undefeated Springfield. The Explorers started scoring with a 26-yard field goal by Jake Vidmar. The Wildcats promptly responded with 16 consecutive points going into the fourth quarter. Quarterback Liam Brennan for the Explorers found Peyton Miller for a 15-yard touchdown to bring the Explorers within 6 points with just over 2 minutes left, but they could not get the ball back from the Wildcats. Springfield holds on for a 16-10 victory. They improve their record to 3-0, and they will travel to 0-3 Centerville in Week 4. Hudson is 0-3, another quite shocking, surprising record in my mind. They will begin conference play against the Brecksville Broadview Heights Bees.
Wow, that was a 10-second delay, I think.
Well, he's still in the best damn air band in the land.
I'm jamming over here, fellas.
Brecksville Broadview Heights
Bees. Sorry.
Brecksville Broadview Heights and now Sean winless in their first 2 games. Hosted also winless Willoughby South. I know there's something coming about fantasy football.
No, I'm not going to say a word. Nothing's official yet, Edward.
He'll jinx it.
The Rebels did take it to the
Bees.
I'm asking 31 straight points before Ethan Hatcher got the Bees on the board with a 4-yard touchdown run. The Rebels ran away with this game, a 31-7 thrashing of the Bruxville Broadview Heights.
Whoa.
Bees. Well,
Willoughby
mainly
South.
You have to bring it down. Bees.
Willoughby South picks up their first one of the year. They will host 2-1 Madison in Week 4. Bruxville Broadview Heights also falls to 0-3. They will start their conference play against similarly winless Hudson. Both teams looking for their first win of the season. All right, the first of 3 matchups between the Suburban League National and the Suburban League American Division.
Right.
One of those is the game of the week, which we will get to later. The first game we have, well, let's be quite honest here. This wasn't going to look good for the National Division. Cuyahoga Falls, looking for the first win since 2016, found tough sledding against the undefeated Barberton Magics. The Magics had their way, to say the least, against the Black Tigers. They get a 55-6 win.
Wow.
All of Cuyahoga Falls' offense came from Robert Graves. He had a 60-yard touchdown run to get the Black Tigers on the board. Sean, what happened on the Barberton end there?
Well, Barberton did play host to the Black Tigers, and they were able to dominate the contest and rolled a 55-6 win, as Ed mentioned. Barberton was led on offense by running back Kyrie Young, 12 carries, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also led on the ground by running back Kenneth Hood, who had 6 carries for 26 yards and 1 touchdown. Barberton's defense was the kind of the story here, as they were able to completely dominate Cuyahoga Falls' offense, holding them to just a total of 3 total yards in the first half.
Wow.
It was a cascade of negative plays for the Black Tigers in the first half. At most times, they found Barberton Magics in the backfield, really getting penetration, stopping their offensive progress. Barberton improves to 3-0. They will open conference play against Revere in Week 4. Ed, what about Cuyahoga Falls?
Well, I know they still scored 6 points. They will, apologies here, they will attempt to get off the schneid against host Twinsburg in Week 4. Speaking of Twinsburg, they are 1-1. They were looking to get back on the winning side of the ledger, taking on Aurora in another Suburban League crossover game. The Green Men jumped out to a quick 14-0 lead before Tigers quarterback Adam Vandemotter hit James Bissett for a 54-yard touchdown pass to cut the lead in half. Unfortunately for the Tigers, that was all the excitement the offense can muster. Or as you know, Sean can elaborate a little bit more on how Aurora did over the course of the game.
Yeah, Aurora was led by quarterback Colin McNamara, who led the Green Men offensively, going 14 of 22 with 118 yards and 3 touchdowns passing, and he added 117 yards rushing. The defensively, as Ed mentioned, only gave up 1 touchdown. But for the most part, were able to stifle the passing game and the running game, for that matter, of Twinsburg. Aurora is now 2-1. They will open conference play at home against Talmadge in Week 4. Ed, what about Twinsburg?
Twinsburg will host Cuyahoga Falls to get to open up their respective conference openers there. All right. The player of the week, once again, North Royalton did play Medina Highland. We will talk about that game here shortly. The player of the week, since I can't pick it from the North Royalton game, I will pick it from Nordonia. This will be 2 and 3 weeks for Nordonia, and they deserve it. They're 3-0, and they put up points. Macedonia Nordonia quarterback Robbie Levac, over 300 yards of offense and 2 rushing touchdowns. He is the Week 3 Suburban League National Player of the Week.
Congrats.
Upon further review, the score stands. It was, in fact, 55-6.
Okay.
There was a little
The red flag was thrown. We had to do a couple double checks there.
That's your last review.
Are you saying it's confirmed or it stands as called?
Stands is called.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, stands is called. We just wanted to double check, make sure we get the scores right. That's how we do here at Sports on Tap. We get things right most of the time. But
and now we'll move on to some of the non-crossover games where Sean's conference would not take mercy on my conference, my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy, to talk about the Suburban League American Division.
Thank you, Ed. And Ed, just to cover that, Aurora ended up beating Twinsburg 21-7, and Cuyahoga Falls lost to Barberton 55-6. Moving on, Uniontown Lake visiting Copley, and Uniontown Lake was not gracious guests in Copley, to say the least, as they were able to dominate the home Indians of 35-7 in a loss for Copley. Copley again dominated throughout most of the game here. Copley falls unfortunately to 1-2. They travel to take on Bedford in a non-conference matchup in week 4. Ravenna traveling into Kent Roosevelt, and this was probably the closest game that we had in the American for the American Division this week. A historic night for the Rough Riders as they earn a 23-20 victory over Ravenna. The Rough Riders were led on offense by quarterback C.J. Anderson, who accounted for all 3 touchdowns for the Rough Riders. He had 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Fun fact, this victory, as stated by the Kent Roosevelt Twitter accounts, was Kent Roosevelt's 500th all-time victory, a historic night for the Rough Riders. They are now 2-1 and will open conference play on the road at Highland. Moving on, Revere kept their winning ways and kept doing exactly what they've been doing for the last 2 weeks, putting up more than 50 points on a team that came into their house. They were able to beat Firestone 55-12, and you know what? They set themselves up for a really good matchup for a 3-0. At 3-0, they take on 3-0 Barberton in week 4. Coventry was visiting Talmadge, and Talmadge was able to secure a 34-21 victory in this one. The Blue Devils were led by quarterback Sam Seeker, who had 16 carries, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns. Running back Rich Ayer from the Talmadge Blue Devils also chipped in 15 carries, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Talmadge 2-1 will travel to take on 2-1 Aurora in week 4. My player of the week is in fact quarterback of the Talmadge Blue Devils, Sam Seeker, 16 carries, 228 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and do the Buckeye recap now. Josh, Buckeye recap. Rob,
okay.
Is the Buckeye recap happening now?
It's happening. Guys, it's happening. Buckeye hosted Cloverleaf in week 3 and cruised to a 20-0 victory. The Bucks were led offensively by quarterback Jacob Durgee, who had 18 carries and 149 yards. Running back Dom Monaco had 18 carries, 118 yards, and all 3 touchdowns, and most of those touchdowns were set up by Durgee's runs. Buckeyes defense was able to completely shut out a potent offense in Cloverleaf. And the Buckeye is now 2-1 and will travel to take on Lutheran West in week 4. Guys, that is all I have from the Suburban American League and Buckeye. I will mention, obviously, as Ed indicated, that our game of the week featured 2 teams from the Suburban and National Division of the Suburban League. So, therefore, we will recap that here when we come back from our break, correct?
Wait, are you going to do the Buckeye recap?
Yeah, just did it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and I think I got all the names right. Very excited about that. And Buckeyes back to their winning ways. They got handled pretty good in week 1 against
But they
Revere.
recovered, yeah.
And the past 2 weeks they've been playing what we've come to know as Buckeye football. So they're running the ball. They're able to control the clock, and they're playing really solid defense.
The Suburban League's tough. I mean, American and National. I think, Wadsworth is a team that just continues to roll, it seems like, in the Suburban League. Barberton obviously just continues winning. I'm interested to see what other teams. Copley has been consistently good, but this year they're having a little bit of a down year.
They're probably at 2 real down years. They lost a lot 2 years ago in their running back Bridges and all that.
Yeah.
What I'm interested to see next week is, and I mentioned in my recap, one of the things that really stands out to me is you got a 3-0 Revere team, and you have a 3-0 Barberton team. Both these teams are back-to-back weeks have put up 50-plus points. So you got to wonder what the defense, defensive output's going to be with these teams. Or are we going to be in a situation where whoever has the ball last is going to score 75 to 70, to 68 or whatever it is. But we're looking at it, and again, I wouldn't count out Aurora. I also wouldn't count out a team like Talmadge. Sam Seeker is a good quarterback. Rich Ayer is a good running back. They got a good thing going there. They got a tough one against Aurora next week, and I think that's going to also be an interesting one to follow for those who are involved in the Suburban American. One of the things I looked at, again, thank you, that's great. was Cuyahoga Falls. They just they're running into buzzsaws here, and they're trying to get that win, trying to get off the schneid, and you pulling for them every year, but it's tough to really kind of follow that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I on an anonymous source I happened to talk to a little bit ago during our power outage of all things.
Nice.
That was earlier when we were dealing with that, Josh.
Yeah.
He's from the area, and I asked him about it, and he said, "Well, we just don't, a lot of their talent, unfortunately, they are in a nice hotbed of really good parochial schools down there. They're not too far from Archbishop Hoban, they're not too far from St. Vincent St. Mary, Walsh Jesuits right in their backyard, so they could be going through the same thing that Lakewood in the Southwestern Conference suffers from, and Westlake and Rocky River, where maybe some of their best kids that live in that city end up going to other schools, for one reason or another. I think Cuyahoga Falls is unfortunately a victim of that. You don't really see too much of that in some of the other schools in the Suburban League, National or American Division, because of where their locations are at. We have another, kind of in the same vein as the Strongsville-Mentor matchup, the Revere-Barberton matchup. Nordonia and Wadsworth, both 3-0 going into this game here. Wadsworth is the defending champion. They have made the playoffs last couple. They've either made the playoffs or been very close the last couple of years. So right now they're the standard bearer. Mm-hmm. They're the kings of the mountain. Nordonia is having the season this year I thought they would have last season, but with Levac now as a senior. They're getting some very, very good production from Niles Beverly, the Jones brothers, Julius and Jordan. They have a very good running back and a freshman, Cooper Rusk, who really helped them out in the first game. Nordonia's got some weapons, and we'll see if they're able to match Wadsworth from score to score in that contest. I'm willing to. I want to see how Hudson and Stowe are going to bounce back now in conference play, because they both had 0-3 starts to their season. It's things you don't normally expect from a Stowe or a Hudson team. Mm-hmm. Mind you, they do play very, very good competition.
Right. And I would just kind of piggyback off of that as saying Aurora was in that same situation last year.
Yes.
They played 3 really good teams.
Absolutely.
Lost, and then were able to really turn it around and make the playoffs on, through their league play. And I think those two teams specifically, until they meet each other, could conceivably be in a situation where they're in the same way Aurora was at the end of last year. Really kind of eking out wins or gobbling up points as they, dash towards the finish. Unfortunately, and actually beneficially to them, it's all conference play for the national division, whereas Aurora benefited too from beating I think it was
Mifflin.
Right. At the end of and that actually got them a lot of computer points too, right at the end there, because Mifflin was a good team that I believe ended up making the playoffs as well. So, Hudson and Stowe have to take care of business in the conference to really have an outside shot of making the playoffs, and it's still possible. It's not unheard of.
No,
but it's gonna be a tough road to hoe with teams like Wadsworth, teams like North Royalton, teams like Nordonia that are kind of figuring it out. So it's I think the National Division and the American Division, for the first time in a few years we've been covering them, both wide open.
Yep,
I think
absolutely. All right,
great insight, guys.
It does it for the Suburban League.
Yep.
Next up is, it doesn't do it for the Suburban League. We got one more game for the Suburban League. It is the game of the week. Week 3 going to be covered here when we get back.
And we'll announce our Week 4 game of the week.
And a guest that we'll have not next week. I will announce that at the end of the show.
Whoa.
Teaser.
We don't even know.
I know. I don't have any idea. Ed's going to surprise us all.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Is it LeBron James?
Are you a business? Want to be featured on Sports on Tap? Get in front of different age groups in the local community. contact us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com for more information. RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out neosportsinsiders.com. neosportsinsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. neosportsinsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. We are live from Studio J. It's me, Sean Duffy, with Ed Dick, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy. Going to start talking about our Week 3 game of the week featuring 2 teams from the Suburban League, one from the National and the North Royalton Bears, and one from the American from Highland Hornets. It was a great, great game. I think Josh can attest to it. I think anybody who followed us can attest to it. Just give you a brief rundown of everything. I'm going to, cherry pick some of the best things that we have here. But if you want to read the whole recap, it's on our website, sportsontappodcast.com. Also on neosportsinsiders.com. We archive all of our shows on YouTube. Follow us at SOT Podcast. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page. Like us, follow us, do whatever you got to do on that.
Wow,
but,
nice.
Guys, this was probably one of the best games that I've seen since we've been covering high school football. I told Josh this as we left. We're going to start out with Highland facing North Royalton at home. Highland got the ball to start the game, and they wasted no time, which is something different because they've had a lot of trouble getting into the end zone in the first 2 weeks of the season. But senior running back Jake Rogers was able to take it to the house for 33 yards and a touchdown. Highland took an early 7-0 lead with 10:36 left in the first quarter. Highland would score again later in the first on a 68-yard touchdown throw and catch from senior quarterback Jack McGinty to junior wide receiver Bryce Profit. The Hornets jumped out to a 14-0 lead with 4 minutes left in the opening quarter. North Royalton finally got on the scoreboard thanks to a 60-yard run by junior running back Simon Antonio. Guys, understand this and know this. Get used to this name, Simon Antonio and Jake Rogers. It's going to come up a couple more times. Antonio would not only punch it in the end zone on the 3-yard run, but was also the guy that scored the 2-point conversion. And at the end of the first quarter, Highland led 14-8. North Royalton would score again early in the second quarter thanks to another touchdown run, this time for 22 yards by Simon Antonio. North Royalton then was able to convert the extra point and jumped out to a 15-14 lead early in the second quarter. Highland was not find themselves behind for long because, as I believe my esteemed colleague Ed found out week 1, is that the one thing you don't do is kick the ball to Jake Rogers. North Royalton made this mistake, and Jake Rogers made them pay. Jake Rogers rumbled for a 62-yard touchdown on the Hornets' next possession with 10 minutes remaining. Highland would add 3 more thanks to a 20-yard field goal from junior kicker Justin Tepes, and the Hornets led 24-15 with 2 minutes left in the half. North Royalton would add a score just as the half was running down when quarterback Joey Marisic connected with junior wide receiver Riley Kanerick for a 37-yard for a 37-yard touchdown pass. And at the end of the half, we found ourselves with Highland leading 24-22. Now, North Royalton would get the ball to start the second half, and they slowed down the scoring significantly as they marched 68 yards down the field and were able to get in the end zone on a 4-yard touchdown pass from Marisic to, guys, I'll give you one guess who caught that pass.
Probably Simon Antonio.
Simon Antonio, his 3rd touchdown of the night. North Royalton took a 29-24 lead with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. Highland took back the lead on the very next play, which was the kickoff, when Jake Rogers took it 83 yards. And I'm not saying it was 83 straight yards. At one point, he was on the sideline. He then diagonally went across the field, and I think at one point he was on one leg. I don't know what happened, but Jake Rogers found himself 83 yards down the field and a touchdown, and just like that, the Highland Hornets took a 31-29 lead with 8:54 remaining in the third. Later in the quarter, North Royalton benefited from a costly Highland penalty on a punt and took over deep in Hornet territory. Simon Antonio, again, would score in a 7-yard touchdown run, his 4th of the night, and Highland was driving for a score late in the third, but a fumble by the guy that just scored a touchdown on a long kickoff run. As he was going into the end zone, Jake Rogers fumbled as he was going into the end zone and costing Highland a scoring opportunity. The third quarter ended with a 36-31 lead, and as we go into the fourth. Guys, I'm running out of breath here because it was so much scoring. Highland's defense was able to overcome the costly turnover and force North Royalton to punt to open the fourth quarter. Highland's offense drove the ball 75 yards for a touchdown, this time a 1-yard run by quarterback Jack McGinty. Rogers would then convert the 2-point conversion to give Highland a 39-36 lead with 7:17 left in the game. North Royalton took the next drive 63 yards in just under 6 minutes for a score by, on this time, Marisick on a 6-yard touchdown run. It was either Antonio or Marisick that was scoring tonight.
Back and forth.
That was the game plan for North Royalton, and it was working pretty well. North Royalton jumped out to a 43-39 lead with 1 minute 10 seconds left in the game. Highland got a lucky break as a Bear squib kick was returned for a really nice gain, and they took over on the North Royalton 40-yard line. Highland put together one of the most fantastic game-winning drives, consisting of one 4th down conversion that was a great catch, and the final play was a touchdown pass from McGinty to Rogers. And I cannot explain to you the level of excitement that was in the press box when when they were trying to make that call. But all I remember is seeing Josh Jeffy in the end zone. He captured it beautifully, and if you please go on Twitter and look at the way he captured it, because at one point there was some confusion as to whether or not he was in bounds, and we talked about it. We may have been the official Ohio High School Athletic Association replay officials.
If they had replay, we would have been it for sure.
Because Josh was right there, and he saw actually not one, but 2 of his feet were down in bounds.
Yeah.
He caught that touchdown, and it was over, and Highland escapes with a 45-43 win over North Royalton. That was a huge, huge victory. It was a great opportunity for Highland. They took advantage of it. North Royalton, they did everything they could. I mean, Simon Antonio had probably one of the best games I've ever seen. He finished with 18 carries, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 5 receptions, 33 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. But unfortunately, their defense. I understand the idea of not kicking it to Jake Rogers because he burned you earlier in the game, but I really do believe that squib kick, they were hoping that it would get past that front, I think it was the second line that ended up catching it and kind of giving them a longer field. But, to the credit of the Highland Hornets, they were able to jump right on top of that ball, and they got excellent field position. And again, I think it was 4th down and 5, and they were able to convert. And they
made a great play call.
Yep.
And just that moment that the Royalton defense kind of lost track of where, I know it's hard to do, lost track of Jake Rogers, and they did, and he was pretty much wide open in the end zone, and he made the catch for the win. Now, as we were talking about this season, that Jake Rogers is one of the toughest players to tackle, and you really don't get a full feeling of that until you see it live. And he's constantly keeping his feet moving, his eyes down the field. He's got great awareness to where the opening is to run through, and he just did a real good job. And on Royalton's end, Simon Antonio, big guy, big runner, very strong, physical, fast. He had a heck of a game. And in this game on Twitter, we brought out the TD tracker, and those guys were going back and forth. And it just so happened that Jake Rogers ended it with the big one, the game winner. But both these teams played well. It was a well-fought. It was well-coached.
Yep.
Although Gibbons did get a penalty early on in the game.
It was
unsportsmanlike conduct. Thank you very much. He did not agree with the penalty call that was there. He said some choice words that got him the penalty, and ended up being I believe a 1st and 35. Way back in their own end. But that was towards the beginning of the game in the first half. Yeah. Unfortunately for them, it didn't really damage them too much. Both teams did a great job. It was back and forth in this one all day. And Highland came out on top, and they did a really good job. But take nothing away from Royalton. They really played hard, and they wanted it, and there was a lot of disappointed Royalton players, and they should be, to play that hard and to have it within your grasp and just to let it slip through. It's really tough.
I would also point out that, the score, I think, is deceiving. In that it doesn't seem like a lot of defense was played. Yes, there was a lot of scoring play, but there were a lot of big plays. It wasn't necessarily. There was a couple sustained drives, sure, that were just dink and dunk down the field, but what we're seeing there is a lot of chunk plays that were picked up. The defenses did play well. It's just unfortunately when you have players like Antonio and Jake Rogers, you get the ball in their hands. that's just what they do. And, the defensive side of the ball was, I thought, for Highland, really good because they were getting penetration. They were making Marisick, really kind of – he wasn't having a good night throwing the ball, which is why Antonio probably had such a great night running the ball, because they were committed to putting pressure on the quarterback, and they did. And what was killing – what was kind of killing Highland a little bit was they were, penetrating so much that, Antonio would get out and he would get one of those dump-off passes, or they would run a draw that was really effective a couple times. And in the end zone, I mean, he was just a bulldozer going there. Anywhere from 5 yards out, that kid's a bulldozer, and it's tough to do. Rogers was more of a slasher-type runner because he's not as bulky as a guy like Antonio was. But, I mean, like Josh says, that kid's legs never stop moving. He just seems to be able to naturally find the hole and hit it quickly. He doesn't waste any time in shuffling his feet. He hits a hole and he's gone.
Yeah, and I think you see how important Jake Rogers is to his team with 249 yards on 24 carries and 2 touchdowns, and then he had that kickoff for 83 yards and a touchdown. So returning kicks, he's dangerous, but if you give him a crease, I mean, 249 yards, I mean, that's pretty impressive. And
which is
did a majority of the scoring, too, for Highland. Without him, I mean, I'm sure other players would step up.
Yeah.
He's a huge leader on that team.
Well, I think it's important to point out as well that, Jake Rogers is the starting running back for Highland. He's not just – I mean, he's prolific on the special teams side of the ball, but, for the past 2 weeks, Highlands had a tough time getting into the end zone. I mean, in fact, the week before in game 2, they were gaining just as many yards, but they could not punch it in, and it was a lot of miscues. And I think early on, that was the issue that maybe Coach Gibbons got upset about, was not just the calls, but the kind of ticky-tack stuff that was being called, because there were a few on both sides that probably could have not been called, and I think that added to frustration and things like that, because it was like a continuation of the week before. But my hat's off to the Highland team, because at any point in time, they were down, and they had the mettle to get back into it and pull off what probably a great game. And we were talking on the way out of the stadium, the last time we watched a Highland game at Highland, it was Highland Aurora, and Highland did not come out on the good end of that, and it was very similar. Last second play,
yep.
Some controversy there at the end. So it was nice to be, at a great stadium like Highland and a great fan base and see him come out with a win. You feel bad for North Royalton, obviously, because they had just as good of a game. But one of the better games I've seen since we've been doing football on Sports on Tap. So if you have an opportunity, go back and read our Twitter recap of that game.
At SOT Podcast.
At SOT Podcast. You can read my article. I probably murdered it on the audio version of it.
Sports on Tap Podcast.
Sports on Tap Podcast. YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Well, no, we're not on any of those. Well,
we
Yeah,
are.
we are.
We are.
Yeah, and
Snap might be coming. We'll see.
We'll see.
That's on you, buddy, not me.
Well, my kid will draw all over it. So
yeah, there you go. Great game of the week. Highland winning 45-43 over North Royalton, and now we have this game. Of the week. It's this Friday, as we will travel to Lutheran West High School to see the Lutheran West Longhorns host the Buckeye Bucks.
So wait, we're not only going to do a Buckeye recap, but we're going to do a Buckeye game.
Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy, guys.
Blown mind right now, because Buckeye, they're 2-1 on the season, and they had a good win. As you recapped, wait, did you? Yeah,
I did. I did the recap. Every week I do the recap. But yeah, they had a really good win against Cloverleaf. Lutheran West is a surprise 3-0. A lot of buzz around there, so it should be a good game. We're hoping. Always good to see Buck fans out there. We normally try to go to a home game, but we're going to an away game to see how well they travel. They usually travel pretty well. Last year we covered them at Columbia. We're going to cover them again at Lutheran West. But yeah, it should be a really good game. I'm excited to see guys Jacob Durkee and Dom Monaco, who've been really the stalwarts of that offensive attack, and I'm interested to see if that defense is for real again. Every year they've been good. Every year they've been a dominant defense and able to stop people from putting points on the board. So it'll be definitely fun to watch that. And I've never been to Lutheran West, so I'm interested to see. It'll be me and Rob out there.
Yep. And it's gonna. You look at Lutheran West. We haven't covered them too much. But they're 3-0. They came off a 41-2 win versus Normandy last week, and they're led by their quarterback, Austin Kim. He had 246 yards and 4 touchdowns versus Normandy. And running back Parker Watson, he balances the running game out there. He had 2 touchdowns and 74 yards rushing versus Normandy there. So that it's going to be, a fun game, and we want to thank MDG Flooring for sponsoring our game at Lutheran West and Buckeye, because they'll be our sponsor this week. And last week it was Westlake Interior Painting.
For all your interior painting needs, thank
That's right.
Westlake Interior Painting and MG Flooring as well.
Yeah,
MDG
MDG Flooring.
DG Flooring.
Support your local sponsors and
Support your businesses. We're always here. RRT Productions for all your sports needs, video needs.
But
anybody else got something to hawk? I'm Tony Rizzo in this whole thing right now.
Dude,
What do you got? What do you got,
ripping it up.
baby?
Ed.
Yeah, well, let's hawk some scores down in Cincinnati, Sean.
Yes.
There you go.
So first, we'll go to Fayetteville, down in Fayetteville, Perry. The Rockets head coach Kevin Finch, in the interest of fairness, as I do this every time I mention somebody I know, he is my brother-in-law, but he is the head coach of the now 3-0 Fayetteville Perry Rockets. They were a 30-8 winner last week over Portsmouth Notre Dame. The week before that, a 60-0 winner over Jefferson Township, and they also won 46-0 in their first week against Manchester. They've given up 8 points so far in 3 games, and they have amassed 136 points in the meantime. They're going to host Hillcrest Academy, currently 0-3, in week 4. That game will happen this coming Friday. My sister-in-law will be coming up to our neck of the woods this weekend, so hopefully she can bring some good news there.
Cool.
And then, in fact, we don't have to wait for that too. We can also talk to Coach Kevin Finch next week.
Whoa!
He will be talking with us a little bit about
confirmed guest,
what's
folks.
going
Is he
on
coming
with,
to Studio J?
He is not coming to Studio J. as far as
I thought if they're staying the weekend.
She's coming up.
He's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He's in football season, Rob. Do you know of any football coach that goes on a vacation on a weekend?
Well, no, not vacation, but Friday night, come after the game, maybe celebrate a win with Ed. Doesn't get better than that, folks.
So hopefully they'll take care. We'll see if they take care of business this week, and if win or lose, we'll have Coach Finch on to talk about the Fayetteville Perry Rockets program as we do every year that he's been coached in.
Very cool.
Thank you, Ed. Good deal out of Fayetteville. My alma mater, the Vandalia Butler Aviators out of Dayton, Ohio. Mount up. They suffered an opening week loss, as we mentioned, 19-40. Lost 42-19 to Harrison, but rebounded nicely with the next week as they beat Tecumseh 49-28. Following that up with a home win, their first home win of the year. Actually, their first home game of the year, as they played their first 2 games on the road. They dominated Wilmington 38-12, and they stay at home this week against our arch rival, the closest team to us, Inglewood Northmont Thunderbolts. Guys, there are certain things in this world that I don't like. I don't like salad. I don't like vegetables. I don't like Ohio State, and I don't like Northmont. Understand that.
Wow.
So I want my Vandalia Butler Aviators to go out there and beat.
I didn't know you have a hit list.
I have
crazy.
a hit list, and oddly enough, salad is on top of that hit list. More so than Ohio State, and I don't I can't explain it. I don't understand
I
it.
don't like salad either. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll eat it, but I'm not happy about it. But I'm not happy.
I
about
won't.
it. But yeah. So guys, Aviator Pride, let's go out there. Let's beat Northmont. Northmont's a good team. They're 3-0 in the Division I Region 3. They're probably going to make some noise here. They have a game actually following up that game against Butler against Huber Heights Wayne then next week. So maybe the old Aviators can take advantage of them looking forward.
Huber Heights Wayne.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Northmont.
Northmont, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
No.
I got you. Trap game.
Yeah, trap game.
Trap game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take a win any way I can get
I
it.
was saying I'm like Vandalia playing Wayne. I'm not allowed
it's not unheard of. We do play them in non-conference. We have played them. I've played them.
Well, no, it's not unheard of, but is it unheard of to beat them?
Sean lost.
Yeah, it is unheard of to
Yeah.
beat them. They got a lot of athletes up there in Huber Heights. But, hey, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about my Aviators beating the Thunderbolts. Check back with me next week. If you have scores, if you want me to shout out stuff, guys, at Vandalia Butler or any of these schools, please reach out to us.
Yeah.
sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on the website. Hit us up on Twitter. Please, we love hearing from the fans, especially after last week's, incredible outpouring of support.
Oh, man.
Great job by
you
Josh.
guys-
Great job by everybody.
Yeah, did a great job. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, at SOT Podcast for all these updates that will be happening this Friday. Again, it's the Buckeye Bucks travel to the Lutheran West Longhorns. So it's going to be a great game. We're looking forward to get out there and hopefully see some new faces. So, guys, any last thoughts on Week 3?
Conference play starts for the rest of us who don't have 10-team conferences.
Yeah.
And we're looking
Thank
forward
God.
to getting into the real meat of the schedule.
All right. Guys, great job tonight. Look forward to Week 4 coming up. Good luck to all the teams out there on Friday night. Want to thank everyone for listening to Sports on Tap. Again, for Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman. We'll see you next Monday night at 7:30 for Week 4's game recaps. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck to all the teams, players, coaches out there this Friday. See ya.